Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that you guys are with me. I don't know about you, but this week it kind of hit me. We are already in the month of June, and that is hard to believe that we're 6 months in to the 12-month calendar. And so here's what I know about the month of June for most people. Most people are going to be traveling a little bit. They're going to be taking a vacation. And so as your pastor, as somebody who really does care about your life, I want to give you a couple of thoughts. That time is more important than you could even imagine. What I know about most people that I'm speaking with right now is they are running themselves ragged. They are running at a pace that is not sustainable. And so when you think about your vacation time and your travel time, you need to be really, really intentional with that time. You need to relax and you need to recharge, okay, so that you don't burn out. But you also need to reconnect with your family. A lot of us, we're running ragged and then we neglect our family a little bit and then we go off on vacation, and because we haven't been maintaining those relationships, there's a little bit of tension there. And if you're like me and my family, we've had some years where vacation was not fun time. It was miserable time because that tension dominated the vacation time, and it was like, I can't wait to get back and get away from my family again, okay? And they couldn't wait to get away from me. Listen to me. This is your time to reconnect with the people that you love most. And then when you get back, you need to make sure that you make some adjustments so that you're not feeling that tension and so that you're not feeling that distance. This vacation time, the summertime, may be some of the most important time that you have in this calendar year. And so I want to encourage you to make the most of it. But I also want to remind you that we are in a very important series here in the life of our church. And I really do believe that it's an important series in the life of our community. If you've been around for the last month and a half, you know we're in a series right now that is a study in the book of Nehemiah. And the title of the series is called Unfinished Business. Throughout this series, we have been talking a lot about how this church has the potential to impact and change this community. And not just this community, but I really do believe that this church has the potential to change a lot of communities throughout the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And so as you're doing all your traveling and your vacationing, I want to remind you that if you're not going to be here on a Sunday, then I want to encourage you to join us for the same service on Thursday night so that you can stay connected and stay engaged in all that we're talking about throughout this series, because it really will take all of us in order for us to do all that God is calling us to do for the Mississippi Gulf Coast. With all that being said, I want to start today's message with a question. The question is simply this: have you ever tried to do a good thing, but you felt like there were a lot of things working against you? Think about it in your life. Have you ever tried to do a good thing, but it felt like there were a lot of things that were working against you? I know some people who have been trying to pay off debt. And as they were trying to pay off debt, they found themselves dealing with all kinds of things that were always tearing up on them, right? That they're trying to pay off debt, and it's like every appliance in the house tears up, the car tears up, the AC unit tears up, their body tears up, so they have an unexpected medical expense. They would say they were trying to do a good thing, but it felt like there were a lot of things that were working against them. I know other people who are trying to build a business, but they couldn't find the right location. They couldn't find the right staff, or someone else started a similar business that ate up a big chunk of the market. They felt like they were trying to do a good thing, but it felt like there were a lot of things that were working against them. For some of you, you're trying to have a great family, right? So you're trying to raise good kids, you're trying to have a healthy marriage, but it feels like every time you try to have a meaningful conversation, it always ends in conflict. For some of you, it's not relational health. For some of you, it's physical health. Maybe you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to get in better shape, and yet every time you go to work and you walk into the break room, somebody else brought a box of donuts, right? I see a lot of head shaking. I'm going to tell you right now, if one more person drops Tate Nut by this church office during the week, I'm going to lose my head, okay? Stop it, right? That happens. For some of you, it's not so much physical health. For some of you, it's spiritual health. You tell yourself, man, we're going to get back into church. But it feels like something's always coming up, or someone's always getting sick. You're trying to do a good thing, but it feels like there are a lot of things that are working against you. I imagine that we've all felt or experienced something like that in our lives. Walt Disney experienced something like that in his life. He was trying to do a great thing in terms of his professional career, but did you know that Walt Disney was fired from his first job at the Kansas City Star? Anybody know why he was fired? He was told, Walt, you just don't have enough imagination or creativity to make it in the newspaper business. That guy was trying to do a good thing, man, but he felt like there were a lot of things working against him. Actor Chris Pratt wanted to make it on the big screen, and so he made a lot of sacrifices, ran into some financial trouble. He was homeless. He was living in a van in Hawaii. When he finally made it on the big screen, his first movie paid him only $700. Sylvester Stallone found himself in a similar place in life as he was trying to make it in the Hollywood business. At one point in his life, he was so poor that he had to sell his dog for only $40 so that he had some money to go buy food. All of these people have one thing in common. They wanted to do something great, and they eventually did. But they dealt with all kinds of adversity and opposition along the way. If you want to do something great in your life or with your life, you can be certain of one thing. There is going to be a lot of adversity, and there is going to be a lot of opposition along the way. But I do not want you to lose sight of this. God made you to do great things in your life. The Bible tells us that truth many different times and in many different places, but my favorite is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. There we simply read this, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do." I know that it's hard for some of you to believe. But for every single one of you in the room, every one of you watching online, every one of you that's hanging out in the chapel, I want you to hear me say this loud and clear. God made you so that you could make a difference. But in order to accomplish something significant in your life, in order for you to leave some kind of legacy on this earth, you are going to have to learn how to deal with opposition and critics and adversity. You're going to have to learn how to deal with difficult people. You're going to learn how to persevere when everything is working against you. In fact, that's exactly what we're seeing in the book of Nehemiah. In the book of Nehemiah, God has given this ordinary guy, a cupbearer, not a priest, not a prophet, not a king, just a cupbearer. He's given him a great project to work on. But in chapters 4, 5, and 6, Nehemiah and his team are dealing with all kinds of opposition. But thankfully, Nehemiah shows us exactly how to overcome the opposition. With that in mind, I want to read to you Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. When word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I had not set the doors and the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message: "Come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono." But they were scheming to harm me. So I sent messengers to them with this reply: "I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you?" 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Now, if you've been tracking with us throughout this study in the book of Nehemiah, then you know this is not the first time that we're reading about these guys named Sanballat and Tobiah. In fact, if you go all the way back to chapter 4, you'll see that these guys were doing everything they could to discourage Nehemiah and his team. Now they're showing up again in the story, and this time they're not trying to discourage Nehemiah. This time they're trying to distract Nehemiah. And so Nehemiah responds to these guys, and he says a couple of things that are very, very important. The first thing that he says is, I am doing a great project. Nehemiah was busy giving his life to the one thing that would eventually become his legacy. This man named Nehemiah has always been remembered as the man who rebuilt the wall and the man who restored the city of Jerusalem. The work that he was doing, it really was a great work. And so when I think about Nehemiah and the great work that God has given him to do, I also think about us. And I think about the great work that God has given us to do. And I have to ask, what is the great project that God has given you to do in your life? I don't have to know the answer, but you have to know the answer. What is the great project that God has given you to do in your life? You see, I really do believe that you don't just have a life to live. You have a legacy to leave. Have you ever considered that? Have you ever thought about that? That you're not just here existing, that you are here for a reason, that God made you on purpose and that God made you for a purpose. If you've never thought about that, you should. You see, this story teaches us that God gave this ordinary man named Nehemiah a great project that he wanted him to work on throughout his life. But I also know that God has given you a great project that he wants you to work on throughout your life. The question is, what is it? If you don't know, then you need to ask God, and then you need to be ready to do whatever he tells you to do. Mark Twain once wrote, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Do you know why you were made? Do you know why God put the gifts and the talents and the passions and the desires that he put inside of you? Do you know why he has you here on this earth at this time in this place? I don't know why he has you here. But I do know why I am here. I believe that God made me and that throughout my life he has been preparing me to bring me to the Mississippi Gulf Coast to start campuses all along the Gulf Coast from the edge of Louisiana to the edge of Alabama. But I'm going to tell you, I need a great team of people around me if we're going to pull off all that God wants this church to pull off. I need people who really do believe that the local church is the hope of the world, and it's been sent here to invade the Mississippi Gulf Coast with the love and the truth of Jesus Christ. We need people who will invest their lives in the next generation. We need people who will pour cups of coffee. We need people who will open up doors. We need people who will run slides and run sound and run cameras. We need people who will do all of these things. We need people who will lead groups. We need people who will do anything and everything they can do to pass along the life-changing message of Jesus Christ to people in need. I really do believe that the work that God has given to Mosaic Church, it really is a great project. It's the exact same words that Nehemiah used. He said, I am carrying on a great project. But then he said something else that was equally important. He said, and I quote, I cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? You know what Nehemiah is saying to these people who want to meet with him and ultimately distract him? He's saying, no, you should try it sometime. But because most people that I know, that they're not very good at saying no. And so I want us to all practice it together. I want you to look at your neighbor right now, and I just want you to say that one word. Say no. Go ahead. There you go. Now this time I want you to say it like you mean it, okay? Look at him and go, no. That's right, okay. Okay, some of you are getting way too into this. Let's focus a little bit, all right? A lot of people struggle to say no. They struggle to say no because they're not really sure how will that be received. They struggle to say no because they don't want the relationship to be uncomfortable or awkward. Some people struggle to say no because they have FOMO. They have a fear of missing out on something. And so they end up saying yes to everything and to everyone. And in the process of saying yes to everything and everyone, what happens is you spread yourself really, really thin. I want you to think about this. If you say yes to everyone, you won't have much to give to anyone. You have to learn to say no. You got to learn to say no, because the only way you can say yes to a great thing is if you first say no to a whole lot of other things. I have people all the time who tell me, I want to be a part of what God's doing at Mosaic. And I love to hear that. I think that's great. But a lot of those people who say that to me, what I know about their lives is that they are already extremely busy. And so my question for them is simply this. If you're already busy with all these other things going on in your life, how are you going to find time to squeeze one more thing into your life? If you are already busy, not just how are you going to squeeze one more thing into your life, how are you going to squeeze a great project into your life, a great project that requires a great amount of time? Remember, Nehemiah walked away from his cupbearer job for 10 to 12 years to work on the reconstruction of this city. As we saw last week, these people hadn't been working for over a month on their normal jobs so that they could focus on this job. You see, if you want to say yes to this, that means that you probably have to say no to something else. You got to say no to a good opportunity so that you can say yes to the very best opportunity. You got to say no to temporary things so that you can say yes to eternal things. You see, I know that we're all busy. I'm just not convinced that we're all busy doing the work that God has given us to do. And so Nehemiah said, no, I'm not going to go down there to the plain of Ono and meet with Sanballat and Tobiah, because that is nothing more than a distraction from the great work that God has given me to do. And so I want to ask you two questions. Number one, what do you need to say no to? And number two, what are some of the biggest distractions in your life? You see, because the truth of the matter is, sometimes you need to say no to other people, and sometimes you need to say no to yourself because you're allowing yourself to engage in meaningless things that are nothing more than a distraction. I mean, let's be honest with each other today. There are a lot of distractions in our world. If you compare our distractions to Nehemiah's distractions, that they don't even compare. Nehemiah probably got a message from Sanballat and Tobiah once a week. Messengers were running back and forth between these two. And so for a solid month, he got 4 distractions spread out over 4 weeks. You don't get distracted once a week. You have distractions sitting at your fingertips 24 hours a day. You can spend your life, or I would tell you, you could waste your life listening to music, scrolling through your social media feed, playing a few video games, watching a few YouTube videos or TikTok videos, checking the weather forecast to see what the wind's going to be like, whether or not you can take the boat out after I finish this message. You can spend your time calling friends and texting friends. You have enough distractions in this device alone to keep yourself occupied 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nehemiah said no to unimportant things so that he could say yes to very important things. If you're ever going to accomplish anything significant, if you are ever going to really leave a legacy on this earth, you have to do the same. You got to say no to others. And at times you even have to say no to yourself. See, you don't realize it, or maybe you realize it, but you don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But you have an enemy like Nehemiah had an enemy. And your enemy doesn't want you to do anything significant with your life. This is why people say if the devil can't make you sin, he will keep you busy. He will keep you busy doing worthless things so that you never have time to do any worthwhile things. This is why you have to learn to say no to yourself. This is why you have to learn how to focus your life on what is truly important. Years ago, Lisa Honberg wrote a book called Focus Like a Laser Beam, 10 Ways to Do What Matters Most. Now, this is not even a Christian book. This is a business book. But I want you to listen to what she said about focus. She said, the ability to focus is what separates the good from the great in all professions and disciplines. The reason that Nehemiah was able to accomplish this great project is because he had the ability to maintain a great amount of focus. Legacy is all about focus. You have to focus your life on what truly matters most, and you have to refuse, like Nehemiah, to be distracted by others. Now, sometimes your enemy will try to distract you. But there are other times when your enemy will try to discredit you. Sanballat and Tobiah tried 4 times to distract Nehemiah. And when that didn't work, they moved on to a new strategy. Look at verses 5 through 8. Then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his aide to me with the same message, and in his hand was an unsealed letter in which was written, "It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says it's true, that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are rebuilding the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now, this report will get back to the king, so come and let us meet together." I sent him this reply. "Nothing like what you are saying is happening. You're just making it up out of your head. Period." You're going to learn a lot from Nehemiah today. I want to point out to you, but before I get into his response, that this letter, this message, it came to him, and it came to him in the form of an unsealed letter. And the reason that it was unsealed is because Sanballat and Tobiah were hoping that the people who were delivering the letter will sneak a quick peek. It's already open. Nobody's going to know that I opened it. Let me just see what this letter has to say. And so what Sanballat and Tobiah are doing is they're fabricating a story. They're putting it in an open, unsealed letter, all so that they can spread a vicious rumor about this man who was trying to carry on a great work. Now, I know that never happens in our day, right? Nobody's spreading vicious rumors about people. No one puts out an open letter or an unsealed letter, but just try to imagine it for just a second. What are they trying to do to Nehemiah? They're trying to discredit him and maybe even trying to destroy him. Everybody knows that the current king, King Artaxerxes, he killed his own brother to get the throne. And so if this is the kind of king who will kill his own brother to get the throne, then it only makes sense that he will kill a guy like Nehemiah to keep the throne. And so what's Nehemiah going to do? Even with that kind of accusation, Nehemiah doesn't lose focus and he doesn't come down off the wall. He simply says, nothing like what you are saying is happening. Now, this is such an important lesson for you to learn, because if you are going to leave a legacy, then you have to learn how to deal with your critics. Nehemiah knew the truth, and Nehemiah trusted that God would make it clear so that other people might also know the truth. Nehemiah believed in his heart of hearts that any wise and discerning person could easily look at this situation, and they would not only know the truth about Nehemiah, but they would also know the truth about people like Sanballat and Tobiah. Why? Because their reputation speaks for itself. What did the great theologian Taylor Swift teach us? Haters gonna hate, 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 hate. You just gotta shake it off, baby, shake it off, all right? Listen to me. There are two types of people in this world. There are those who are trying to build things, and there are those who are trying to break things. When you are trying to do a great work, when you're trying to do something special in your life, people will attack what you do, and when that doesn't stop you, they will attack who you are. Just look at every American president in modern American history. The people who don't agree with them, they criticize them, and they criticize the work that they do. And when that doesn't stop them in their work, they start criticizing the kind of person they are. This is Art of War 101. If your enemy can't convince people that you are doing a bad work, then they will try to convince people that you are a bad person. The question is, how do you respond? The question is, do you stop what you're doing to go and meet with them? Or do you stay laser focused on the great work that God has given you to do? A lot of people would come down off the wall and say, that's enough, and they would go and meet with Sanballat and Tobiah. Not Nehemiah. Because Nehemiah knows the truth about people like Sanballat and Tobiah. These guys are not wise, godly, rational people who want to build something. They are trolls who are trying to break something. Taking time to meet with people like that is almost always a waste of time, because neither party is going to change the other's mind. God told Nehemiah to build the wall. Sanballat and Tobiah are not going to talk him out of rebuilding the wall. Nehemiah doesn't need to go meet with them, because Nehemiah knows, I'm not going to change them. And so instead of meeting with them, you know what Nehemiah does? Nehemiah says, I'm going to go meet with God. Verse 9, they were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work and it will not be completed. But I prayed, now God, strengthen my hands. I mean, think about this guy. He's not just doing physical labor. He's got these people who are draining him emotionally. He's out there trying to pick up these stones and rebuild the wall. He's out there trying to pick up these heavy doors and set it in the gate. And all the while, he's got these people in his life who are his opposition, people who are trying to discourage him, people who are trying to distract him, people who are trying to discredit him. And he knows it is completely exhausting. Sanballat and Tobiah are what John Gordon would call energy vampires. They will suck the strength and the energy right out of you. And so let me just ask you, you got anybody like that in your life? Don't point, okay? Don't point at them. But do you have any energy vampires in your life? Maybe you got people in your life that you work with. Maybe it's someone that you live near, someone that you're related to. Maybe you're one of those people who's trying to do a great work in this city, and someone's always chirping about you on Talk of the Town. And it gets out there, and it's sucking the life right out of you. I'm telling you, you've got to be careful with energy vampires. They will suck the life right out of you. But I want to point out that whatever they suck out of you, God is the one who can put it right back into you. Nehemiah prayed, God, strengthen my hands. The psalmist said something very similar in Psalm 28, verse 7. Said, the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him and he helps me. See, God doesn't just want to give you strength. God is your shield. He's the one who can protect you. He's the one who can protect your name. He can protect your reputation. He can protect your great work. God is your helper. But you have to learn to trust him. And you have to learn how to depend on him rather than taking matters into your own hands. Do not waste your time trying to meet with your enemy and convince your enemy. Instead of meeting with them, you need to use that time to meet with God. You've got to let God fight your battles while you stay focused on the work of leaving a legacy. Now, I realize that's a whole lot easier said than done. But I'm going to show you how you get there. You've got to pray like Nehemiah prayed. Verse 14, he prays again and he says, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they have done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. Nehemiah asked God to remember. Now, that should sound familiar to you because last week, at the very end of the last chapter, Nehemiah prayed a prayer in which he also asked God to remember. In that prayer, he said, God, remember me with favor as you think about all that I have done for these people. Don't miss this. God doesn't just remember what you do for others. God also remembers what others have done to you. If you don't believe that, then you will spend your life, or I would say waste your life, taking matters into your own hands rather than leaving it in God's hands. You will waste your life being distracted from the work as you're trying to win over your critics. You'll spend all your time trying to explain yourself, trying to explain your motives, trying to explain your work because you are afraid of being misunderstood. Nehemiah doesn't do that because he trusted that there is a God in heaven who remembers everything that he has done for other people. But that God in heaven is also remembering everything that other people are doing to him. God remembers all the people who are trying to distract you. God remembers all the people in your life who are trying to discourage you. And you better believe that God will remember all of the people in your life who are trying to discredit you, and he will deal with them at the right time and in the right way. Nehemiah left it all in God's hands, and he stayed focused on the work that God had given him to do. And I want you to see what happened. Verse 15. So the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul in only 52 days. Phase 1 of the project, rebuild the wall. Phase 2 of the project, rebuild our homes and our city. Phase 3 of the project, we're going to restore these people back to God. And so the work is not completely done. But they were able to accomplish something that was truly phenomenal in only 52 days. They accomplished in 52 days what others had not accomplished in 140 years. It is amazing what God's people can do when they work together and they stay focused on the great work that God has given them to do. I don't know what great work God has given you to do, but I do know this: you'll never finish what you don't start. A lot of us are going to start a great work together in Harrison County, and I would love nothing more than for you to be a part of it. But if God has given you some other great work for you to do, I would just remind you, you will never finish what you don't start. So get started. And don't get distracted, don't get discouraged, and don't allow others to discredit you along the way. Building a legacy, it won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Let me pray for you. God, as we bow our heads in prayer, I want to pray for 3 groups of people. Number 1, I want to pray for the people who are discouraged. God, I pray that the people who are dealing with discouragement today, I pray that they would just feel very much like you brought them here and that you spoke directly to their life. And I pray, God, that alone would start to encourage them. But God, more than just that, I pray that you would literally instill a spirit of courage in your people. God, your word tells us that you have not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power and love and self-discipline. And so, God, I just pray that there would be this sense in which you are transforming the spirit and the mood that lives inside of us. And I pray, God, that those who came in discouraged would leave encouraged. God, secondly, I want to pray for people who feel distracted. God, I know that there are some people who feel distracted from the work that you have given them to do. I pray, God, they would learn how to say no. No to others. No to the worthless distractions that occupy so much of our time. But God, for those who are so busy with the things of this world that they don't even have time for a relationship with you, God, right now, I pray that they would see how distracted they really are. Right now, God, I pray that they would start to focus their life on what matters most. A relationship with you. A relationship with your Son, Jesus Christ, who came to die for our sins and who came into the world to lead our lives. God, may we set aside the distractions, say no to the unimportant things so that they could say yes to the very important things. God, help us to say no to distractions. And then finally, God, for those who are trying to do a good work, but that there are people who are trying to discredit them, I pray, God, that you would deal with those people. God, I pray that they would stay laser focused, and I pray, God, that you would go to work on those other people, their critics, that you would deal with their critics in just the right time and just the right way. God, you alone know the best way to deal with them, and so, God, I pray that you would intervene and that you would start to work on those who are hindering your people from doing the great work that you have given us to do. I pray all of these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.